And that was Baby I Need Your Lovin' by the Four Tops. Welcome. This is WQSR 102.7 playing all the oldies. We have on the line Emma. Hi, welcome to the program.
Wow, I love your radio voice. You really do sound professional.
For sure. I've been doing this for a while now. We play all the hits. It's great to see you. So what got you into radio?
What got me into radio?
Yeah. You called. You're call number 9.
I bought one and turned it. I bought one and turned it on. I plugged it in. And turned it
Interesting.
on.
You don't say. So we're going to talk.
Are you talking about my talk show career?
Yes, your talk show career, but you never shut up.
It was like a whole bunch of us in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Were really into the talk shows, and I used to call them, and it was me, Michael Song. He called.
Yep. Shout out.
He used to Mendel Saul. He used to call himself Michael of Northwest Baltimore.
Yeah.
And Joseph Kaner. And sometimes we would like keep tabs with each other. Hey, who did you call this week? Who did you call? What did you discuss? Now, I'm the type of person, as you know, like people always said, even when I was, like a young kid, when I was like in 3rd or 4th grade, I used to like get very involved in politics and history and get very fired up about things. And people tell me, tone it down. You don't have to get so fired up, don't worry. I mean, you don't have to correct every little injustice. And then there was a friend of mine at Machon Khana who she really understood me. She took a different point of view. She said to me, she thought what I was doing was good. She says, you have a very strong sense of justice. You don't like to see people being taken advantage of. You don't like to see totalitarian politicians. And it goes against your grain. You can't stand it. You can't stand to see injustice. You have this urge to have to speak up and to want to do something about it.
So we seem to have mentioned this before as a rerun, so we're going to have to cut that. However, we really appreciated your engagement. We wanted to have another topic that fit more into what your criteria was, and it was birds. You said you wanted to focus on birds and bird watching and how that was an interest of yours.
Okay, now I'm talking about everybody has experiences with birds, which might have inspired Alfred Hitchcock's movie, The Birds. But everyone has their own stories about either good or negative experiences they've had. Because let's face it, birds are flying around us all the time.
Yes.
And it's easy to have run-ins or good experiences or bad experiences with birds. From your car being pooped on all over the place to a few years ago when I first moved to Florida, I was walking down your sister street here, and this blackbird comes out of nowhere and almost attacks me. Flew like very low, almost hit me. And it happened again when I was coming back the other way down the street, same thing. And it was like, I like waved my hand at this thing and said, "Bird, what's your problem?" Your brother-in-law, your sister's husband, actually got hit by the thing.
Oh, wow.
Almost hit him. I think it did hit him. If it did him or came very close to hitting him. And a lot of people in the neighborhood were almost attacked by this thing. And they said that evidently this bird was protecting a nest that was in one of the trees there. But the reason I'm talking about the talk that occurred to me was this past week where I work, I was out on the playground with the children. And there was a couple of the kids were eating muffins. And a lot of them like ate off the top or whatever. You know how kids are. These are preschoolers. They didn't eat the whole thing, and I left them there. And so I thought it's a pity to throw these muffins in the trash. And even though in Palm Beach County we are not allowed to feed the wildlife, it's an ordinance.
That's a real issue.
Yeah, I could not stand to take these muffins and to throw them in the trash. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to very quietly throw them out on the lawn, break them
Yeah.
up and throw them out. So I broke them up, threw them around the playground, and these birds started to come down to try to eat these pieces of muffin. And of course, these are preschoolers, and they see birds, they go, and they want to run over and pet them.
Yeah.
And of course, the birds fly away right away, and the kids look up as the birds are flying, like, "Oh," So I was thinking about, like, different experiences people have, with birds like that. One time I was swimming in the swimming pool, and a duck actually flew into the swimming pool where I was swimming and started swimming around. We have ducks here in my neighborhood. So one time I was talking to one of my neighbors, like the group was, we're sitting on the side, we're talking, and one of the ducks waddles over to us and like stands there, like in the middle of the circle of people, like almost wanting to participate in the conversation.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So this blackbird, was it sing in the dead of night?
Ah, ah.
Take these broken wings and learn to fly all my life.
That's a pretty song. Is that an American folk song, by the way? I remember
No,
when
it's
it
a
was
Beatles
popular.
song. It was
Blackbird
about
singing in the
it
dead
was
of
about it,
night.
yeah, take these
Yeah.
broken wings and learn to fly. It was Paul McCartney wrote about it because he read an article about, I think, a black woman who was beaten or something like that during the times when it was
Oh.
like, yeah, so I
Mhm,
can't get all the story. I'm not getting the information right, but like something
mhm,
like that, something happened with the black woman, and he decided to go ahead and write a song about it, and he called it Blackbird, and that's what the
mhm,
song's about.
mhm.
I have some philosophy questions for
Oh,
you
but
actually.
I have some more bird stories.
Okay, go with the bird stories, and then we'll
I
try to
want
do
one more bird, a couple more birds. Okay,
a
here's
couple
what
more
happened.
birds.
There was one time that one of your sisters found it was a baby crow.
Yes, I
And you heard
remember
about
that one.
yeah.
Yeah, and she
And
nursed it back to health.
no, what happened? Well, besides that, yeah. You know that was one of the stories. It wasn't a crow. It was another type of blackbird. But
It
yeah,
was just
right.
a regular, I had a
Yeah,
regular like local bird.
it was amazing how she fed it and took care of it until eventually it was able to fly away. But this was a different story. This was a crow. I think what happened was this was a baby crow that was probably trying to fly, maybe
Hmm.
for the first time, and didn't quite get the hang of it and was laying on the ground. So I felt sorry for her. She felt sorry. She picked it up. She brought it home. So I did was I took some bread and I took some grapes and I mushed them together to make like a poultice.
Hmm.
And I was holding this little baby crow, and every time the baby crow went like that, I would
Yeah.
put some of the food in its mouth and it would swallow it down. And would get so I was feeding it for quite a while. There was a knock at the door. It was a friend of mine, and I was holding this baby crow in my hand and petting it. I walked over to the door, and my friend went, "You shouldn't." You shouldn't be keeping. I said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, it was. We found it on the ground. And it wasn't flying, so I was feeding it." She goes, "You shouldn't have it in your house. You shouldn't be feeding it." She goes, "These things carry bacteria." And when she said that, the baby crow went like that and flew right at her and almost hit her in the head.
You're like, shut up, bitch. Oh wow. Um, yeah,
Oh, and
so
then there was another creepy story. The
okay.
bird. Okay, it was a few weeks after your grandfather passed away, after your father's father passed away.
Okay.
Pop,
Oh
Pop
yeah.
And I come out on the porch and there's a bird sitting there on the porch. And usually when you walk towards a bird, you walk past it, they usually get scared, they fly away. No, this bird was sitting right there on the railing and was like yelling, like like
Squawking,
it
basically.
was it was yelling at us. And I walked by it and it just kept yelling at me and yelling at me. And I just walked right by it. And then later on, your father said to me, "Did you see that bird this morning on our porch?" I said, "Yes, that was eerie." He said he thought that the morning when he was on his way to work, he came out on the porch and yeah, this bird was sitting there just like looking at him and yelling at him and yelling at him. And so your father thinks for a minute and he goes, "Dad?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, so the philosophical question I had was, is there an unexpected part within you or an unexplored endeavor outside of you that you're suppressing because of the opinion of others?
Yeah, I think about that one.
Yeah, it's a loaded question. I wasn't expecting a lot of, talk. How about this? How about we give the question and then
Where did you where
we'll
did
talk
you
about
get
something
that
else.
question?
Uh,
What website did you get that question from?
I'll be honest with you. I get it from these different Instagram posts
Yeah.
where they do this whole thing of like philosophy, meaningful questions to ask yourself or others. So I figured using those as like helpful topics to get me to really try to, open up with myself and also maybe like with the podcast as well.
Idea. I remember what that question you asked me reminded me of
Mm-hmm,
when your sister Hani was, I think, about 4 years old, something
mm-hmm,
like that, 4 or 5 years old. She says, however she was a family philosopher. She would come up with all these philosophical statements, and when as a toddler, and she
mm-hmm.
said, however you were born, the older you get, the further away you get from it.
Wow.
So I called Bubby, my mother, and I told her what Hani had said, and my mother says, wait a minute, let me think about that for a while. And then Hani went to school and she repeated the thing to the teachers and some of the kids in the class. And the teacher's like, like this, let's think about this for a
Let's
while.
yeah, let's kind of dwell on that for a little bit. And kind of like, that's that's why I feel like sometimes I want to ask you some questions, but I feel like if I ask them right away, it would require some time and it would just soak up too much of airtime.
But you know
Um,
something? I think there's a I think there's a part of all of us that we kind of feel that there was a certain potential. I think a lot of us feel that we have never really truly actualized our total potential.
I, I
And
th-
in fact, I think people, mo- I think the average person, I think not even people that are very successful. I think everybody. I hate to get morbid about this, but I think everybody dies with the feeling that
do
they
enough.
didn't quite do enough to bring out their potential.
Well, because the whole time you're worried about the future, and then when the future finally comes and you realize it's all for naught, you're like, oh, I could have done so much more. It's like looking back at when you were like 8, 9, or 10, or even like a teenager.
Hmm.
It's like I could have done so much more as a teenager than I did because I understand it better now. I understand the consequences and of my actions better, where I could actually enjoy myself more and not be so worried and
Yes,
not be so
so
self-conscious. And
true.
I think that's really where it's all about. And I think that's
Hmm.
what death really is that at the end of the day, we're all going to die. And then when you're dead, you're like, oh, nothing. I was scared, but for nothing. Like,
Yeah, I
like,
often felt like that too.
like,
I was anxious for nothing, had all that anxiety for nothing.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I mean, this whole week I was riddled with anxiety with my work and taking care of stuff and trying to figure things out. And like,
Yeah.
I was just trying to solve like these issues, but like I was trying to tell myself, you know what? End of the day, we're all going to die. It's going to be fine. Like, like I think of Tati as well when he was so worried about all these sorts of things, and it got done. It got done.
Mhm.
And the worrying and the yelling and the screaming and the freaking out, like it was just for nothing. It was just, you know,
Mhm.
that's really where I think about it because people have these questions like, are you doing anything out of fear of failure? Like you're afraid of failing. And I'm afraid of failing. I am. I could say that I'm scared of failing my job. I'm scared of failing, and disappointing my supervisor and failing the tasks that need to get done. And it's just something you just have to be honest with yourself. Like that's just the way it works, you know?
You know
But-
something? Yeah, we have to remind ourselves that we're not God
Mhm.
and we're not perfect. and nobody is perfect. We all, you know, we don't know. It's impossible. We don't know everything. We don't know everything. We can't do everything 100% successfully.
True.
It's impossible. The most that we can do is just, you know, make it, make the best effort that we can, but realize, like we're very limited, um, faulty human beings,
Yeah.
and that God never wanted us to be perfect. God created human beings to face challenges, to realize we can't do everything, but just to give it a try. And that's all any honest human being can ask for. Just make the best decision you can with the information you have, and
Yeah.
realize you're not God. You don't know everything. Where, of course, you draw the line, God forbid, is criminal behavior. Now that's
Yes.
where the line is drawn. Intending to do harm, intending to cheat, intending to steal or to do somebody else harm. Stealing is also harming someone, because what you're taking actually belonged to somebody else, and now they're going to suffer because you took what they were supposed to have. So that's and
Yeah. In general, though,
that's
not
that's
like
where you
taking.
draw the line. But
Yeah.
if you're an honest person and you're just trying to live an honest life, and you're not out to harm or cheat anybody, just making the best decision you possibly can with the information you have and the technology and the tools at your disposal is all that can be expected of any human being. As you come across but I don't like these obnoxious people that like take this like very haughty. I don't know what it is. I think you have some very egotistical people who imagine in their sick minds that they're perfect.
Yeah. Explain. What are you talking about? I'm following you a little bit, but I feel like I'm missing something.
Okay, I'm sure everybody has had people like this in their life, where you made a decision, you did a certain action, which you thought was the action to take based on the information you had and the tools at hand. And it turned out okay because you got the wrong information, or because maybe you misinterpreted the information, or because maybe something was wrong with the tools that you had at hand, or didn't have the right tools at hand. You know, it was a mistake. I mean, it didn't turn out. The ending didn't turn out so good. In other words, you did not succeed. There was, you were not successful, even though you worked with what you had. And
You
there are
did your
some
best, but you still failed.
right, and there are some people who, instead of realizing, hey, you really did try, instead of trying to, instead of trying to understand that, hey, you did the best thing that you could, or maybe they might have given you the wrong information if they're the person in charge. They might have even misdirected you, or maybe what they said was up to, they did not explain themselves properly. But no, they will never admit that. As far as they're concerned, you're stupid and you don't know how to do this and you don't do that, and you say to them, well, wait a minute, we're all human beings, we all make mistakes, and they give you this haughty, some more so than others.
Yeah, people like that don't deserve to exist in my life. I mean, I I've been down that road where I've had that, where you've had these perfectionists,
Hmm.
and like every single step that you make has to be calculated. And if you're not properly calculated, you can't keep your stuff together, you're out of the club, and it's just really a lot of intensity and a lot of just
Hmm.
exhausting emotional behavior that's just unhealthy. Um,
Yeah, there's this one woman I was dealing with one time, and every time I found a bit was, well, I don't see why you did this. That was her favorite
oh my
expression.
gosh,
I
I
don't
hate that.
see why. And you know something? You know where all these people are who were constantly putting me down like that?
Dead.
How did you guess?
Yeah, they probably died from stress because of all the stress they're putting themselves under.
Well, like, was it Jesse Owens revisited the Olympic uh, track
Mhm.
in Munich, where he had won the gold medal, I think 1936 gold medal.
Yeah.
And the story was that Hitler refused to shake hands with him because Hitler said that that the United States did not send a human being, they sent an ape. He
Oh,
almost
wow.
called Jesse Owens an ape to his face. So this reporter asked Jesse Owens while he was visiting this track, so many years later, he says, "How did you feel about the Fuhrer not shaking hands with you?" And Jesse Owens smiled and said, "Let's put it this way. I'm here. He's not."
Yeah. Um, that's always interesting. When it comes to just people getting their comeuppance, and like it's not now, but it's gonna be there and it will happen, you know? And that's where I get the confidence of like, end of the day, it's gonna work out. I'm not too worried about it. Um,
How do we
I
get there from birds? From
I
bird
don't
stories.
know.
I have
Can
another bird story, by the way.
Oh yeah, okay.
I'm not kidding. This really happened. I'm not
Okay.
imagining this. There was a blackbird. I think it might have been a crow. I don't know what kind of species it was. It was at the top of the tree and it was actually saying hello to everybody.
Oh
The
really?
thing could actually talk. People were passing by. Everyone noticed it in the neighborhood. It was actually going, hello, hello, hello.
That's really cool.
Oh, did I tell you the story about the friends of mine who had the talking parrot? I don't know if I told this story on the
No,
air.
I maybe not. You've already repeated yourself for two different stories already in this episode, so I think we're fine.
Okay, so what happened was these people came. These people had like almost like a menagerie in their house. They're very big animal people, and two of their birds were talking. One was a talking parrot. Was a talking cockatiel. So they came home after work, and they looked at the footage from their video cam to see, if was anyone at their door, anything happened. Two robbers came to their door with, masks and everything, and they were trying to break in the door while they were at work. And the talking parrot called out, "Hello, hello!" I got scared and ran away.
That's awesome. Back to the question. Um, so was there anything that you've explored that you've wanted to explore and you were like suppressing it because of other people? Do you want to talk about that?
That's a good thing for all of us to think about, things that we wanted to explore but suppressed it. I'm thinking. Actually, no, because I was the type. Get out of here, beast! I was the type of kid. In fact, that's what drove my parents crazy. My mother was used to, well, grew up in an era where girls were young ladies,
Mm-hmm.
and my older sister, the firstborn, was just that, very sweet, gentle, young lady who, basically, listened to her parents, didn't get into too much trouble, and then I came along. And I was one of these kids where if I felt like going out of the house without permission and exploring, I did. And it was meant my mother was always terrified because she knew no matter how she tried to watch me or keep me in my or whatever, she knew I would figure out a way. And I was young. I was like 5 years old. I was little. I was 5, 6 years old. I would always figure out a way to sneak out of the house. And we had a lot of woods in our area.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to love to run away to the woods and just explore. I would spend a whole day in the woods by myself, just exploring everything, just exploring nature. And thank God nothing happened to me.
Yeah,
I mean, to
wow.
think about Neba, some of the horrible stories you hear, about all horrible things happening to kids. And here I was like a little 5-year-old kid just running off into the woods and just running around by myself. I always wanted to go to Europe, but didn't have the money for it. That's why when I promised myself when I graduated college, that's when I went to Israel, just like went by myself and kind of like roamed around. And then I remember, oh yeah, my first opportunity to actually go off was my music teacher told me about this string like summer camp that they were having in Westchester, Pennsylvania at Westchester College. And they were having all sorts, I think we spoke about this one time about all these amazing concert violinists and string artists were going to be there to coach the children. I had saved up my money. I saved up all my babysitting money. I had the money for it. I didn't know if I should do it or not. It would mean me going on the train by myself to Westchester, Pennsylvania. And I was 15 years old at the time. And my mother said to me, look, she says, if you don't take a chance and do this, you'll be like me, sitting at home, doing nothing, never going anywhere. And I think my mother was one of those people who secretly probably really wanted to explore and really wanted to go and do. But I think she was conditioned by her parents to always be afraid. Because essentially pogrom survivors, you know what I mean? People like that they found who survived the Holocaust and pogroms are very overprotective of their children.
Yeah.
And
we've talked about that.
Right. So anyway, so I decided to go. So I forgot. I think I called up the train. In those days, you didn't go on the computer. You didn't do things on computers. You had to actually call the train company. You had to actually call them up and ask them, how do I get here? And they would tell you over the phone what to do. And you would actually go down to the train station, buy the ticket, or ask the person behind the booth, I need to go here. What train do I take? So I called up the train company, and they told me that I had exactly which train to take from downtown, from B&O station. It was called the B&O station. Is it still called B&O station? Does it go by a different name?
I think it is. I mean, if I'm not mistaken.
It was Baltimore, Ohio Railroad.
Yeah, I think it's a B&O.
Yeah. So, but the thing was, when I got to Philadelphia, I had to transfer to this little shuttle train that would take me to the college. And I had never traveled by myself before. I was nervous as heck. I was a bundle of nerves. And I went down and I got my ticket and I got on the train and I started crying. I was so scared. I started crying. And this woman said to me, why are you crying? What's the matter? And I told her I'm going away to music camp first time by myself and on the train. And I'm very, very nervous. I don't know which train to take. So some of the people on the train were telling me, what do you have to do? I said, well, they told me I have to transfer at the station to the shuttle to Westchester, Pennsylvania. And they said, well, there are 2 stations in Philadelphia and you can get the shuttle at either one of these stations. So the people were discussing it and they told me, don't go to the downtown station. They thought it was too dangerous, especially a young girl traveling by herself.
Yeah.
They told me instead to go to this other station, which is like a little bit further away, like more towards the suburbs, that they felt was a safer neighborhood, a safer area. So anyway, so so the conductor, when he was going around taking people's tickets, I was so nervous. My ticket was
shaking.
My ticket was totally wet, almost disintegrated.
Because of your sweat.
My ticket, he looks, he goes, boy, you must really be nervous.
That's awesome.
So, and I remember that shuttle train was that was weird. It was like it was like really like this almost like this country-ish type train that you would see in a Petticoat Junction type thing. I'm sure the area is much more developed now than it was back in 1960. This would be 1965. 66. 1966. Yeah. And well, I'll tell you, I made it. Make a long story short, I made it. Me and my violin and my suitcase. I managed to make it there in one piece.
Oh wow. Yeah, because I'm thinking about, like, I guess anything that I kind of regret or anything. Well, of course I'm not going to regret stuff, but like do things because I'm afraid of failure. And I think I learned that philosophy from you, where it's like, don't live with regrets, make it happen, go. You
Oh,
know,
thank you.
and
Nice to see I did something right in my life.
whatever it is, what it is. Look, I think it's just like the stage where it's just like
Mhm.
I was thinking about this today because I was thinking of Tati. His yard site's coming up soon, and he wasn't a perfect human being by any
Mhm.
means, but he still was my father.
Mhm.
And understanding a flawed human being doing the best they can, and that being your dad, hits a lot harder. Hits a lot harder than I would say like the perfect dad being there for you, you know? Because it's just like and I'm understanding where they say that Hashem loves a flawed human being, where it's like the flawed human being gives that flavor to life more than anything else. Hashem doesn't want a malach. He doesn't want an angel doing everything perfectly. He wants, you know, he wants his children to try their best and do the best they can with the faults that they have as humans.
Mhm.
You know, that's just how I see it. Um, I have one more question. Because we only have like 8.5 minutes left. And let's sit with it for a little bit. What is truly important to you regarding the limited time you have on this planet, and are you living prioritizing this core value? Because for me, my whole life,
I think, well, you talk about values. Um, uh, the best decision I ever made was becoming an Orthodox Jew,
mhm.
and I was always the type of person, even in my atheistic years and my socialist communist years, um, people said to me what they admired about me. Said, "You believe in living your values." Unfortunately, at that time, my values were skewed because miseducation.
Yeah,
Admit it, misinformation, miseducation. I was exposed to, especially in college, you're exposed to the woke philosophy, and you're exposed to all this, socialistic, left wing garbage. And at that stage of my life, because I mean, at that stage of my life, you buy it. My religious values were not strong,
mhm.
because I wasn't raised with strong religious values. I was raised with a very strong, Jewish identity, and some of the Yom Tovim we kind of celebrated, whatever. They were non-religious Jews, like they were more like, culturally aware Jews, you might say. Didn't
Yeah,
really keep Shabbos. We didn't keep Shabbos. My mother lit candles, but we didn't really observe Shabbos. And one of these Jews that kashrus in the house, crabs outside,
yeah,
type thing. Yeah.
that's
Typical Baltimore, not religious Jews, crabs outside. Um, so I became prey to the leftist side of the leftist nihilistic philosophy, which is very common for that to happen in those circumstances. But when I finally found the values that I found were steady, were strong, and that had proven the test of time, I mean, the Torah values have been around for what, thousands of years,
yeah,
literally, like, but since practically the inception of the earth. I mean, I found these to be very, very good, strong, steady, you
they're core
concrete
values. They're
values.
core values.
Yeah.
Eh,
And like my friends always told me that, they admired me because I said, "You believe in living your values." And Baruch Hashem, I found the values that were worth really living for.
yeah, yeah, and I think Tati also had a lot of integrity and core values,
Mhm.
um, focusing on what's important. Um, and for me, at least, that's why I think that when it comes to wanting to live your life in a certain way or making sure you prioritize something, I always felt like I had Judaism born into me, but something that I felt that, was very important was family.
Mhm.
Spending time with family was something that I felt was very important to me since I was a kid.
Mhm.
Um, and I've done that a lot, where it's like I've prioritized family, and it's it's something that I think is very important, because I always see these people on their deathbeds, and all they wish was they spent more time with their family.
Yeah, your brother Yehuda said that. He said, nobody dies wishing they spent more time at the office.
It,
You
and
know?
and, I, and that's why I kind of live my life of just like my family. And it was funny, but for like a while, it was more of like my family, which was my immediate family, my brothers, my sisters, my father, my mother. Then it was my girlfriend, so I'm like, okay, it's my girlfriend, it's fine, whatever. And then it was my wife, and I still had that girlfriend mentality, but then I stopped myself, like, no, this is my new family now.
Right.
That's the family that I have to hold on to,
Hmm.
and spend time with and enjoy and be there for.
And that's
Um,
also a transition that a lot of parents have to realize too when their children grow up and marry. It's like, hey, their primary relationship is their spouse and their family.
mhm.
And even though you raised this child and you're their parents, sorry, but guess what? You're number two on the list now. And you have to learn to accept that. And I was, thank God, because I think partially because of Aunt Ann being a social worker and then a psychologist. She and I, before you kids grew up, she and I had many conversations about this. So when you kids grew up and married and had your own families, I was how can I was very, very well prepared for that. In fact, looking forward to it, because realizing that this is the way life is supposed to be. But unfortunately, I'll tell you the truth, I've come across adults who, you know, can't that are having a lot of difficulty making that transition.
Well, I've seen a lot of stuff where it's like, because I'm prepared for it since I was a kid, and it was taught to me since I was a kid, when it happened, I wasn't like surprised or in shambles or broken down. Like when Tati passed away, or when I
Mhm.
was going to summer camp, or when I was leaving to Israel, um, you know, where it's like it was definitely an easy transition, because I was like, summer camp, I think the first time going away was hard.
Yeah, it
But
is.
you have to do it.
It
You
always
have to
is.
do it.
Right.
Um, but then because I went to summer camp every year for like 5 years, 6 years, I got so used to just leaving home like for 2 months. And then I went to Israel, where
Mhm.
like you're gone for like 6, 7, 8, 9 months.
Mhm.
Um, and then eventually leaving the house and doing my own thing. Um, it comes with that time. But that's why, spending time with your family in a healthy manner, in a healthy limit, is so important. I always, get worried with some people who are like never left the house and they're 40 years old. And it always gets to me. I'm like, when their father and mother pass away, what are they going to emotionally, mentally do?
It's sad. I know. I've met
It's
people. There are people like that. Yeah.
I worry for them. I worry for them. Like what are you going to handle? Like, how are you going to mentally like deal with it? Like, I was lucky enough to have a situation where I eventually gradually became more independent over the years.
Mhm.
But like a lot of people like depend on their parents, for many, many years. And then finally, once they pass away, it's just gone. And it's it's scary. Um,
Well, I tell you, I feel sorry for those people, but the reality is everybody has to be responsible for his and her own life. You can't live people's lives for them,
oh yeah.
you know,
No, I get it.
and we all have to be, there are these, I feel sorry for these people, but hey, they had the God-given right to make their own choices.
It is what it is. It's just how it works out, you know?
In fact, I
Uh,
remember you just triggered a memory of mine. When I was in college, I was going to this therapist, and because I felt that I was too attached to my mother's apron strings.
yeah.
And I said to her, maybe it'll just take me getting older to finally, cut my mother's apron strings and go off on my own. And the therapist said to me, I have a 40-year-old woman that has your problem.
Wow. All right. Well, I love you, Ma. Have a wonderful
Maybe
Shabbos. And we're
we can leave with a happier thought.
Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.